Hi there, it's David John, the Resourceful Coach, and what we're going to look at today is your chip and run shots, and we're going to look at really how to keep your options open, look at the opportunities, the different versions of how you can play this shot, and find what works for you. I think when coaching golf, the biggest thing you learn is to work with the individual and find what's the best method for them as the individual. What a little bit frustrates me with golf is people think there may be a certain shot in golf and there's only one way to play it. And I think if you're very open and when you watch the golf on TV, you'll see these guys will play lots of different shots, lots of different ways. Now, what we're going to start with today, we're going to look at, first thing we're going to learn is what the golf ball does. What do you want the golf ball to do? And the objective is we're going to play a little chip and run shot from the back of the green there, only about 3-4 paces off the green, down to our flag. And what is your goal? What do you want to achieve with the shot? And that's your starting point with everything. What do you want? And the key thing is we want to get this ball, if we can, in the hole or as close as possible, that the next shot would be a putt and we'd be down in 2 shots from the edge of the green. And it's just finding your way to do it. Okay, I'm not going to say there's a definite way you've got to do it. We're going to look at different techniques. We're going to look at different clubs and find what's the best option for you. And then go and practice it. You might find something today we go through. You might go, I never thought of that. Give it a go. Go to the practice ground, give it a go. It might be right for you. Be a little bit open-minded. Don't get set in your ways that that's the only way to do it. So first thing I'm going to learn is what do we want the golf ball to do? We want that golf ball to end up as close to that hole as possible. We're looking at a shot. Let's go over to the ball. And we're just going to follow what the ball does. So all I want you to do at the start of this video is just watch the golf ball. Nothing to do with my technique. I'm 3 paces off the green. Okay, we're going to play 2 or 3 balls here so you can get an idea of the flight. And the objective is number 1, I want to end up, as I said, in the hole or as close to that hole as possible. And just to play this shot initially, this is the club that I would use. I just use my A-time. And all I'm looking to do is play a shot that will elevate over this little bit of fringe grass onto the green. If you've watched one of my videos before, we call it the 2-step rule. At least land the ball 2 steps onto the green. And the reason for that is we're never that good. You can underhit it, but it would still probably land on the green. You can overhit it, you're still going to be okay. But the objective here is learn what do I need to do with the golf ball. And I don't need to hit this ball high. So that's why I've chosen an 8-iron. That's why it's what we call a chip and run. We chip it on and it runs out towards the hole. And I'm not even going to go through technique. I just want you to watch the golf ball. We'll come to technique later because we'll look at different options of club. And we're just going to play 3 balls here. And let's just see what we get as a result. So all I've done, I've popped that ball. Mentally, all I'm thinking, I want to end up close to the hole. And I've probably landed that ball about just over 1/4 of the way to the hole. I mean, what you've got to understand is golf clubs have slightly changed in their loft. So my 8-iron now is probably closer to a 6-iron than an 8-iron from what it was 20 years ago. So what you've got to realize, yeah, the ball's going to go nice and low. We don't want it to go high. Very happy with that result. Should be able to get that down with my putt. But just watch the flight of the ball. Just watch that. Pop it on. And what's the objective? I want it to roll down to the hole. Again, inside a flagstick length. If I'm doing that, I'm playing single-figure golf. That's the key thing. And all we've got to find is your way to play the shot this way. And it doesn't matter what club it is. It's finding your way to play it and get the result. And see the ball just going probably only shin height. That's how I'm seeing the shot. Shin height, running down. Very happy with that, within about 18 inches of the hole. So, always for me, and this is really important to say, if you are somebody who likes to hit it a little bit higher, that's absolutely fine. Play that shot. If it works for you, then that's great. But what we're looking at here is just to play a shot that gets the best and the easiest result that I can do it. But all I wanted you to learn through the first couple of minutes of this video is how did the ball fly, how did it roll, where did it end up? That's the key thing, because it's where your ball ends up is where you're going to play the next shot from. So we don't want it to look amazing and flying high through the air and it goes off the other side of the green. Think about the ball flight, how that's going to run out. What we're now going to look at, the second thing, we'll go a little bit more into the technique and the choice of club, is how do we get that ball flight? What do we want to do? Is it the choice of club? Is it the setup? How we're going to get that flight so we can get that ball rolling down. You can see from my 3 shots, we've got one about 6 feet away, one just over the foot, and another one around about 2 feet. If that was my average shot, I'm going to play to scratch golf. I'm very happy with that. But hopefully what you can see from the simplicity of the ball flight and the roll on the ball, that's why I got the result that I did. And that's where you start. That's your starting point. Think about the shot that you want to get, how you're going to get it to roll to end up next to the hole. Okay, but let's have a look at the technique, look at the options of clubs that we can use, and see how that can improve our game and get the desired results we're after. So in the first part of the video, what we looked at was the golf ball and understanding the ball flight and the roll on this chip and run shot. And now we're going to look at is more the technique. And what I want you to understand is once you've got that picture of the shot, and that's the, as we said, the flight and then the roll, it's now understanding, okay, how am I going to use the golf club to make that happen? Okay. And what's really important is, as I said earlier, be open-minded. Don't get stuck in one way. You may find something works for you, but you may find, I mean, this is a pretty standard shot that we're playing here, and I'm not going to show you the end result of the ball. We're going to work on technique here, and then we'll come back to that in a second. But it's understanding, yeah, what do I need to achieve to get the result that I want? And there may be, this is a pretty standard sort of chip onto the green, and I've probably got about 30 foot of green to play with. And in other situations, you might have to go up a tier, you might go down a hill, you might look at different clubs. But we're just going to give you 3 options of shot, but the idea is I'm going to get a very similar ball flight. That's the important thing. It's now finding the club that works for me. And I think that's really important to sort of look at it and say, yeah, what's the right club for me to fit the shot? So, as I did in my shot, I played an 8-iron, and we're going to show you that shot to start with. And there's 2 or 3 things that I do in my setup that straight away make it easier to control the shot. This is not a powerful shot. As I said, we've got 30 foot of green. We've probably only got about 6-7 feet of rough grass to get over. So I'm only looking at a shot maximum of 40 feet. And you think about it, if you're going to roll a ball and throw a ball, how much energy would you put into rolling a ball 40 feet? It wouldn't be a lot. Okay, so I'm choosing a club that I know will get me over the trouble and give me the result I want. But everything in my setup now is going to fit the idea of the shot, the flight of the ball, and how it's going to work. So the biggest thing I do, 2 things to reduce the power, is if I'm using this club, an 8-iron, the first thing I'll do is I'll grip down the club. I'm probably gripping down the club somewhere between 1 inch and 2 inches, depending on the lie and how that feels. But I just want to feel what that's going to create by gripping down the club. It gets me a little bit closer to the ball. From this angle, if we look at it from this angle here, gets a little bit more like the club is sitting a lot flatter on the ground, even a little bit heel up in the air. But it makes the swing go much more up and down the line. So that's the first reason why I grip a little bit down the club, gets me a bit closer. The second thing, which I think is probably the biggest thing I do that I see amateur golfers not do, is I narrow the stance. I get everything very narrow. Again, if I was going to throw a ball there, it'd be quite gentle underarm, my feet would be close together. I'm not looking for power. So I go very narrow. But that's the thing I see with a lot of golfers. They'll stand here as if they're still playing a full 8-iron, trying to hit it 40 feet. So I narrow everything up. And then the third thing, because again, we're back to that ball flight here. I've got an 8-iron which is going to hit it low, but to encourage it definitely does that. I'm just going to put the ball slightly nearer my back foot. So I'm getting that into that position, and from there I can now play the shot. And now I'm just going to trust that idea of the flight, get the ball popping forward onto the green. And you can see I'm not looking to hit the ball hard or do anything like that with the shot, just nice and balanced to get the result. So that's how I play the shot. That's my technique with an 8-iron. Another shot I sometimes do, okay, and again, it depends on what I've got to go over, is I might take just a standard pitching wedge. And as we mentioned earlier on, golf clubs have become a little bit stronger over the years. A pitching wedge now, if you've played golf for 30, 40 years, is probably close to what an old 8-iron used to be. So that's quite important to understand as we go through that. So from there, all I'm going to do, I'm going to change one thing. And the reason I might go to a pitching wedge is, again, it already is a shorter club. It doesn't feel like I've got to grip so much down the club. But what I'm going to do to keep that ball low, this is the important thing to understand, what we're going to change in these shots, is I'd put the ball even further back in my stance. And the idea behind that, again, it keeps the loft off the club. The more I have my hands forward, I'm going to exaggerate it, the less loft I have on the club. But there's a point where you can go too far. So again, sometimes I just want to play a little wedge shot, literally right off the toe now, my foot there, a little bit closer. And again, similar shot, because actually it's going to come off the club, similar to what my 8-iron did. Pop it forward and get the ball rolling down to the green. So the time I might use that shot is, it comes off a little bit softer. It might be if the flag cut fractionally closer to me. So that's another option. Okay. And here's another option that I see has come into golf It's not one I play, but I'm offering it to you because it gives you the chance of another shot. Okay, and the only reason I find this a little bit tricky is I like to grip down the club. So if we grip down the club on this, you can see how much of the club now is starting to dig into my body. But why is this a club that's working well? This is a hybrid. And the reason is the flat sole of the club, it tends to slide through the grass a little bit easier. So if we go back over 10 years ago now, back of the green at the US Open, Justin Rose was just off the back of the green. He used his hybrid, he put it up next to the hole, hold the putt, and he's US Open champion. So even players of that standard could use the shot. If their eye, it suits their eye. That's the important thing. You get the clear picture in your mind. Now what I'm going to do is you think about it. I played 8 irons slightly back. I played my wedge even further back. I want to guarantee I've got that loft. So what I tend to do is I play this quite centrally in my stance. A little bit narrow stance, and it feels more like a putt. It's going to be more like a putting stroke. And again, won't go high, about shin height. Pop it forward. Get it rolling down. Well, that ended up better than my pitching wedge shot, so maybe a shot I should practice a little bit. But I haven't shown you the results of them because I'm more interested in showing you the technique. We're going to then play the shots again, and we'll show you the end results as we go through. But the importance to understand, again, I've put those balls, 3 different clubs, have ended up approximately somewhere between 6 and 3 feet from the hole. So I'll be very happy with those results. But the starting point was that ball flight. Now I've chosen the club, now I've made a setup, and now I'm getting results. So we're going to watch the 3 shots again. We'll watch them come in. We'll play all 3 shots again with the different clubs, see what we get. But you'll see my ball flight not going to change too much. I'm just choosing a club to play the shot. So we're going to play all 3 balls again. We're going to play the 3 different clubs. And again, I want you to go back to understanding, yeah, we've talked about the technique, but now realize it's the ball flight. It's the end result. That's the key thing. And the great thing, when you watch the top players, what they're very good around the greens is their visualization of the shot. They've read the shot. They'd read this like a putt. They'd understand, we'll show you this. This is going to break a little bit right to left down the hill. And they're looking to hole it. But the main objective is to get the line and the speed correct. Get that ball flight correct. So when it lands on the green, they know how it's going to roll. So we've gone back to my 8 iron. That's the first shot. Because of what we've learned from the shot, I'm going to aim a little bit to the right, probably about 2 or 3 feet right of the hole. My technique, as we said, I'm just playing a little bit back of center, stripping down it a little bit, and I'm now just seeing that shot. So again, the flight of the ball. So I've got back to the original thought, and I've chosen the club, the setup, play the shot out there nicely, probably about a putter's length away. So really happy with that. Inside, we've given ourselves there inside a putter's length, 3 feet. Really good. Okay, so that's why I like that shot. That's the shot I practice the most. That's the one I use the most, and that's probably week in, week out, it's going to be my best result. But let's have a look at the other 2 options. So what I did with the pitching wedge to keep that low ball flight, I just played it a little bit further back in my stance, grip down the clubs, a similar idea. I'm not looking for any change in ball flight because I've changed the club and the setup to do it. Pop it out there. Yeah, amazing. Look at that, right beside the other ball. So what I'm learning from that, if I was practicing a lot and working on this shot, I'd be looking at that and thinking, okay, I need to go a little bit further right. Okay, now if I don't like to play the ball back in my stance and I want that slide of the club through, here's my 3rd option. I've got my hybrid, so I'm just going to play a little bit more in the center of the stance, and it will feel more like a putting stroke. Okay, so from there, again, out to the right side, out there. Learn from the other 2. Here we go, we might get luckier. Okay, so the one I don't use the most, maybe that's the one I should practice a little bit more. But what I've done there within those practice shots, and I'm happy with all 3, obviously really happy with the last one, is I learned from them. I learned from the shot. I learned how much that was starting to break. And I think that's the big thing. We've done that on a couple of videos, watch and learn videos that I've done, is watch your shots, learn from them. How can you make it better? Okay, there's an element in golf, yeah, there's an element of skill that you're looking to achieve, but anything like that, there is a tiny bit of luck as well. But if you're putting the ball in the right place, you start to get consistency with what you're doing. So let's simplify what we've talked about today. For me, really, the number 1 thing is watch the golf ball. Watch the flight, watch the roll, how does it end up? That's the number 1 thing. Then number 2, choose the club that's going to fit the shot and create a setup to make that ball flight. So now you're getting all the pieces coming together, and then it's just working out, yeah, what's the power to play that shot? And if you start to put those 3-4 things together, so we're talking about ball flight and roll, choice of club, setup, and then swing, you'll start to see better results. Don't go and work just solely on your technique and hope that you get the roll. Start with the roll and the ball flight and the roll first. Okay, that's really important. Understand it's the golf ball that you play around the golf course. The more you're doing that correctly, the easier this game's going to become. I hope you've enjoyed that tip today, working on your chip and run shots around the green. Please keep your options open. And if you did enjoy it, please subscribe, share this with your friends, and I look forward to seeing you soon.